South Africa's civil society is raising its voice louder than ever, warning that the window for real accountability is closing fast. This week, a coalition of prominent advocacy groups issued a blistering demand: the Special Investigating Unit must move beyond compiling reports and begin enforcing tangible consequences for corruption. Their message is sharp, urgent, and unambiguous: the clock is ticking. For years, the SIU has been positioned as one of the nation's key instruments for rooting out graft, mismanagement, and public sector abuse. Its investigations have exposed billions lost to fraudulent tenders, inflated contracts, and criminally coordinated networks within government departments. Yet despite these revelations, activists argue that far too little translates into arrests, recoveries, or prosecutions. Instead, they say, the country has become trapped in a cycle of announcements, commissions, and glossy reports, while corruption continues to bleed the state dry. Government officials, however, insist the opposite. They maintain that the administration is demonstrating unprecedented seriousness in tackling corruption. In statements delivered this week, senior figures highlighted new procurement reforms, strengthened oversight bodies, and increased cooperation with law enforcement agencies. They argue that the SIU's job is investigative, not prosecutorial, and that cases must first be thorough, watertight, and ready for court. But these assurances have not softened public frustration. Critics say the government's rhetoric has repeatedly outpaced its results. They point to the mountain of completed SIU investigations that have yet to yield court convictions, asset seizures, or disciplinary outcomes. In some cases, officials implicated in major corruption scandals remain in office, drawing salaries, and even influencing new tenders, an image activists call a mockery of accountability. The pressure is rising. Civil society organizations warn that without concrete action, public trust in the state's anti-corruption agenda will collapse entirely. They argue that corruption is not just a technical challenge, it is an existential threat to governance, service delivery, and national stability. Every delay, they say, deepens inequality and drains resources from communities already battling unemployment, failing infrastructure, and a cost of living crisis. Several groups are now demanding deadlines, prosecution targets, and public progress reports. Others want Parliament to strengthen the SIU's mandate so that the unit can directly enforce some of its recommendations instead of handing them over to other bodies. Some legal experts support this idea, saying South Africa's anti-corruption architecture remains slow, fragmented, and vulnerable to political interference. The SIU, for its part, has signaled that it understands the urgency. In recent briefings, the unit revealed that billions in irregular expenditure remain under active investigation and more high-profile reports are expected soon. Yet this has only intensified calls for action. Another report is not justice, one activist said. Action is justice. As the chorus grows louder, the message to government is unmistakable: the era of promises is over. With national patience running thin and corruption fatigue gripping the country, citizens want proof, clear, measurable proof, that those who loot public funds will face real consequences. For now, the pressure mounts. And as civil society warns, the clock is ticking.